All right, stream. We will be getting started in about a minute. Plat, what's good? I appreciate the like. Yes, sir. What's good? What's good, Plat? We getting ready to get started, man. Word, word. All right, all right, all right. Cool. And we here, man. So, y'all, man. Happy Tuesday, first and foremost. I got a special guest, man. I've been knowing this guy for
Well,
Lord, man, more than half of my life. That's crazy. Very special, very important person to me, man. Very motivational, very inspirational. All of those ALs, that sound good. But anywho, happy Tuesday. With no further ado, I'm gonna introduce my guy Aleeph Mir. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, talk a little bit about who he is, and then we'll open up the floor for some questions. If y'all don't have any questions in the meantime, between time, feel free to drop them. But we're just gonna kind of talk about where he is, what he does. I'll give y'all a little insight to where I am right now, and just gonna rock out this Tuesday. So without any further ado, Aleeph, how you doing, man?
doing good. It's Tuesday. It's
Hey,
a busy week already. Um, but yeah, so I'm the director of revenue operations at a small cybersecurity startup that was recently acquired called Scout Cybersecurity. Um, for those of you that don't know, revenue operations is basically, all things analytics, reporting, process, technology, enablement, onboarding for all sorts of businesses. If your business doesn't have a revenue operations or sales operations person, it will sooner than later. And I'm based here out of Austin, Texas. Recent transplant from New York, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
nice. So let's talk a little bit about the director of revenue operations. So let's talk before we talk about how you got there. Let's talk about what it looks like now. So like let's run us through a quick like day to day like some things you see on a daily basis, and what's the meat and bones, the meat and bread what the of your job.
Uh, uh, I would say starting with just to establish what revenue operations is, it's the combination or looking at the sales operations silo, the customer success operations silo, and the marketing operations silo, and taking all three and flipping them instead of vertically going horizontally. So instead of looking at marketing operations as one thing and sales operations as a separate thing and customer success operations as the third thing, you're looking at the revenue stream, the entirety of the business, right? So
Mm,
marketing, sales, customer success are all through the entirety of the entire business, right? So it only makes sense that we can operationalize that and make it more efficient. So I have to look at things from a very tactical, boots on the ground, like, on the floor kind of situation, and then
mm,
30,000 foot view and be able to kind of see the forest through the trees. Um, so day to day, I mean, I work with Salesforce a lot. So Salesforce is the CRM that I've most closely worked with over the tenure of my career. But I've worked with NetSuite in the past
nice.
and other smaller CRMs. But basically administering the system. So really going through and making sure that the system is operating as it should. Any sort of bugs or issues that come up, putting out a lot of fires with regards to that. Um, it really depends on what the priorities are of the business. So let's take, for example, right now, as we're going through this acquisition, um, my process has really been okay. Document the process that's happening on the marketing, sales, and customer success side. Getting into the nitty gritty, visualizing that with Lucid Chart,
Mm,
taking that visualization and being able to make recommendations in terms of, okay, well, here's a gap, here's an opportunity, here's a place where we can template this, here's how we create and operationalize this and make it more efficient. And then we're taking those documents and then creating that entire kind of like an operating model, and taking that operating model all the way through to our integration project, which is
mm.
basically integrating our Salesforce system to that company's Salesforce instance.
Okay,
Um,
so
so
you
that's pretty
guys,
much a day to day.
sorry, my bad. Hey, CC, I appreciate the like. So on a daily basis, I guess I'm trying to break it down a little bit further. So you oversee from marketing to customer success, just across the board, and you have direct reports that report up to you, or what's that
So
structure
at
like?
I have one direct report, a revenue operations analyst. She reports directly into me, and then we had an intern for the summer. So we had a revenue operations intern coming in, helping with a lot of the data management, lead imports, cleaning up the system, documentation for that project that we were working on. And then of course there's other projects that come up, right? Like how do we help enable these people, especially on the partner success side, the enablement and onboarding team, where they onboard the actual customers and partners. How do we speed them up? And so one project that we did was we purchased Salesforce Service Cloud and implemented that based on all the feedback that we got from the team in terms of what their process was, how they were going about things, and migrated from Jira to Salesforce.
Okay.
So, I mean, every day is very different. I mean, that's the beauty of the job. I work with Salesforce a lot. I work with Outreach a lot. I work with sales automation, marketing automation platforms. I do a lot of reporting, crunching numbers, spreadsheets, and then, put out a lot of fires, work strategically and tactically. So it's kind of everything in between.
All right, it's my boyfriend Josh said, and here I am about to pursue a 5-year PhD. No, it'll be worth it, bro. It'll be worth it. You doing? Look, if you want to switch up, there are definitely avenues, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. So, he's got to give you guys an overview of what he does now. What he's doing. Let me move this mouse. That's better. And what we're gonna kind of dive into now is like how he got there, how he leveraged the positions he started out to get to where he is now. Pranjal, what's good, bro? It's been a minute. Y'all be sure to check him out. He streams some Call of Duty. A pretty good player, man. But anywho, back to this. So let's talk about how you got there, cause the I'm not this. Of course, no discredit or no slight or anything, but you don't have a degree, and a lot of people when they hear that perks their ears up, like, huh? How did this happen? So, and I think that would be
I ask
this.
myself that every day.
Yeah. How am I here? But
Yeah.
hey, man, we're getting to get into that. So let's talk a little bit about this after high school. Let's talk about after high school. How you got into your first job, and what steps did you take to move yourself up to where you are now?
Yeah, no, I think after high school, it was one of those things where I knew I didn't want to go directly into school.
Yeah.
But my dad, kind of kept pestering me and was in the back of my head here, like I could hear his voice, and I was just like, all right, fine, whatever, I'll go. And I did it, and I partied too much. I didn't go to class. I did all the things that everybody does, but I
Yeah.
just and before you know it, by the second semester, it was too late. Like in terms of like the second semester, I made up for it completely. Like I got all B's.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't undo a semester where you have all F's. Right? So, so that was tough, and I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. The oil spill had just happened, so I kind of got like a temporary summer job through my mom. Actually, she was working at a company that was working through the oil spill, so I
Yeah.
did that whole thing. Was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, what I was interested in. And I had always had some sort of interest in technology companies and like startups and how you build businesses because it was such a foreign concept to me. My dad is not in that. My mom is not in that. No one in my family is really in
Yeah.
technology. So it was one of those things where I very much so fell into it. And so I had a bunch of different jobs and I was kind of bopping around. I mean, I worked retail. I worked at the Gap. I worked at like a like a small Whole Foods bodega almost in Brooklyn.
Nice.
I worked for Lifetime Athletics
Oh
as
yeah.
like an operations
Sorry to know.
associate.
Aleeph is a New York native, so I forgot to give that background to it as well. I've been
Yeah,
up until now. Hey, Toxic God, I love you too. I appreciate you for tuning in. Yes, sir. Up until
yeah.
now, I've kind of had people very local to Alabama and Birmingham, but I'm really doing my best to expand out and have a lot of different people from around the world. So sorry, I just wanted to bring that in as well.
Yeah, I'm local enough.
Yeah, yeah. That I mean, that is true.
Um, but yeah, so kind of had a bunch of different jobs, and I was working at a rooftop bar in Manhattan, like a rooftop lounge, and doing like coat checks slash hosting, and just trying to figure it out. I was just like, okay, I need some money, I need to figure out what I'm doing. I would go to school on and off, but like not really into it, and
Yeah.
trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And had no real guidance, didn't have a guidance counselor, or like didn't have like a mentor, or didn't have somebody saying like, hey, this is what you should do, or looking out. Like it was just kind of like, throwing spaghetti on the wall as we all do.
Yeah.
Um, And so, really walking through that, I was what was I doing at that time? I was working at Lifetime Athletic, which is just a fitness, like a bougie fitness center. And then I was working at that rooftop bar and lounge at the same time, and I fell into a role where there's a company called the Fruit Guys. They basically sell healthy snacks and fruit as like a delivery service. So like
Nice.
almost like um, and so, they were looking for somebody to kind of be a jack of all trades, sales operations, sales force administration, lead generation, demand generation, like all of those things. They're working with the leads, working with their partners who was developing the leads and sending those over, putting them into the system appropriately, working with the data. I did a lot of like cold calling in my first
Nice.
3 months or so, and I hated it so much. But it was like it was a job, and it was something to kind of get my foot in the door, and that's all I needed. That's all I wanted. I wanted a foot in the door to be able to say, hey, I'm here. I have some experience, and then being able to leverage that going forward. So that's kind of how I fell into it. From there, it was kind of just like, really focused on trying to learn as much as I could, teach
Mm-hmm.
myself everything that I knew. So on the side, I would spin up a development instance or a sandbox instance of Salesforce, and then just play around. And then I
Nice.
watched a lot of YouTube videos.
Yes, sir.
I purchased all like the Udemy courses and
Yeah.
Coursera courses and all of those kinds of things. Just putting, investing the time and money into myself and trying to uh, stay above water,
Word.
while I was there.
So we'll take a little we'll stop right there for right now. Pranjal said he is from New York too. Let's go. Hey, what part, bro? Um I think you hit a really big point there. Like you got your foot in the door, so you kind of had an idea of where you wanted to go. You said, okay, let me gain some experience here. But the big thing you did was you put in that work outside of work, and I think that's a big proponent. Hey, Angie, I appreciate the like. Happy Tuesday, happy Tech Tuesday. Okay. Anywho, so but again, a big part of you getting to where you are now was putting in that work off hours. Was you spinning up the instance of what you were working with at work and actually getting hands on and nitty gritty with that product. If you go into Udemy, if you go into Coursera, if you go into YouTube and actually putting in those hours. Upstate Albany, the boring side of New York.
Yeah.
Hey, it's all good. I ain't judging, but
It's still New York.
it's still New York, man. So okay, and that's something I can attest to as well as and we'll get to me a little bit later. But man, a big part of getting you kind of get your foot in the door in any industry, no matter what it is, and it's kind of even if it's the job you don't want, you kind of got to look at the big point of view and say, okay, where do I want to go? And you have to start investing that time in you. So it may mean a weekend off from the friends, a week off from not hanging out. I may not catch the game I want to watch. Just putting that time into yourself and being proactive, knowing that you got somewhere you want to go. Hey, Angie, I appreciate you, and kind of putting forth your best foot forward to get there. So I'll stop my
100%.
little and get back on. I get back to you. So yeah, Fruit Guys, you're getting this opportunity. You're able to spin up stuff on the side to get a better understanding of where you are and what you do. So what's your next steps? Like what happens from there?
Yeah, so like that was my first. I was there for almost 2.5 years, and I saw every iteration of the company and helped, many trips to San Francisco to help, coordinate with the executives and meet with the president of the company on like strategy and reporting and what's working, what's not working, how to make those things that are working work more and work better, and how to make those things that aren't working just how we stop doing those things. And so for me, it was kind of like that really good entry level position for myself. And I think the one thing that I can attest to that absolutely putting in the work on the side and knowing that like, hey, if you're interested in something, you're going to have to like learn it somehow. Um, I think the key thing there was recognizing, okay, well, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis? What do I like doing? What I don't like doing? And then I proactively sought out, okay, well, what's the title that I want to have, or what's the career track that I can have, and I looked up everything sales
Mm,
related, like marketing, customer success related, everything, and I found sales operations, and I was like,
yeah.
okay, I don't know what that is, but I basically found that there was okay you can be a sales operations associate, you can be a sales operations analyst, you can be a sales operations manager, you can be a director of sales operations, you can be a VP of sales operations. And I was like, sometimes those VPs end up becoming like a chief revenue officer or a COO or whatever. And I'm like, that's a whole career path right there. That's a track that I can. So when I had my performance review, I leveraged that and said, this is the title that I want. I want this title.
And what was that title?
The title was sales operations analyst.
And
So
what did you change?
My original title was probably something like sales analyst or sales coordinator or sales specialist or something, something like that.
Yeah.
Where it just indicates that I'm a jack of all trades. But I think this sales operations analyst, analyst having analyst in the title helps. But I think for me, it was just like, okay, this is the title that I can use to leverage building out an entire career path. And looking back on that decision and me doing that research and looking back on the career path and trajectory I'm on now, without me doing that, I don't think I'd be here.
That's big, man. So to everybody at home, like if you, no matter what field you're in, if you want to get in tech, I advise it. I'm a proponent of it. But if not, kind of just look at where you are. Look at the job outlook for your position. I feel like a lot of industrial jobs, even entry level positions, require so much experience, which is really difficult to get without college. Kudos to you, Aleeph. Hey, that's a friend job for sure. Yeah, for sure, man. I'm trying to get this man his flowers while you're here because that's something that you get that. You do have to get. It is difficult to get your foot in, but once you do, it's easy to stay there as well. It's easy to get into an entry level position like that and kind of be stagnant because you're like, oh, I'm here and I'm. But if I
just don't want to lose it. You hold on to it, so you end up crushing it, and I think that's a bad way to go about it.
Facts. Instead of seeing like Aleeph did, he looked at the job out, looked at what a track like that looks like that for position, and he mapped it out. I similarly started and I didn't know anything about computers pre 2017, not a doggone thing, zilch, zero, nada.
I can attest to this. That's what this watching. It's not his strong suit.
You feel me? So, I always had an interest, but never kind of the same boat. Never had a guide in hand. Never had anybody sit me down and be like, "This is what it is." Had an amazing opportunity bestowed upon me, and I still do try to take full advantage of that. So, I think it's about. It's a mix of putting your best foot forward and taking those opportunities and not being afraid to step out on, I call it faith. Regardless of what religion you bind with, it's just faith of believing in yourself, believing that it's in yourself, really, believing that you can do it. One of the big things that was crucial for me early in my career was my instructor brought it up. It's the difference between a fixed mind state and a growth mind state. Fixed mind state to say, man, I can't do this. I'm never gonna learn this. This is too hard. A growth mindset to say, man, this is hard, but we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna do what we need to do to grind it out and get somewhere with it. All right, so and I'll stop talking about myself. But back to you, Aleeph. Facts. Oh, I'm praying jobs back. Facts, and to be honest, college degrees don't get you a job. That's a misconception that a lot of people have. They prepare you for a career. If you spend the time and put the efforts, you can prepare for a career without a college degree. A lot of determination, though. 100%, 1,000%. At least you want to chime in on that.
You have to have the drive. I mean, I think it boils down to you have to be able to. You have to be like, okay, I want to put myself in the best position and do the work necessary to get there. I mean, the college degree doesn't mean anything. I've never run into that stumbling block in terms of like an interview process where they're like, yeah, okay, you don't have a college degree, all right, bye. Hasn't happened because I can speak to what I do. I know that I'm confident in what I do. I have the track record to prove it, and I think it's a matter of and then another thing that we will probably get to is imposter syndrome as well. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Crucial for me, especially when it comes to not having a college degree. But I think even a lot of the major tech companies are not looking at that anymore, and I think they're bringing that down. So like with recruiting taking the turn to more of a diverse and equitable and inclusive process for their recruiting process. Part of that is actually not limiting people based on their experience, not limiting people based on their creed, color, sexual orientation, but it's also not limiting them based on their education.
Yeah.
And a lot of course correcting is happening. Of course, it's slow, and I wish it would have happened years ago, but it's better late than never, right? So I think that's absolutely correct.
All right, so let's go back. Fruit guys, you get the fruit guys. You kind of figuring out your way. You like, okay, I'm feeling sales. I'm gonna take some time. I'm gonna do what I need to do to move up. You get the title change. What happens from there? Talk me through how you get from there to where you are now.
So from there, that was the same recognition that you mentioned, right? Fixed versus growth mindset, and that's very similar in companies, especially tech companies. You're either a high growth, hyper growth company, and you're looking to scale, or you're a lifestyle company, and you're looking to basically just maintain the lifestyle that you have, and that's a lot of times like family owned businesses.
Mm,
This particular company, the Fruit Guys, is a family owned business. And so they were looking for some semblance of a little bit of a mix. So mostly lifestyle with some growth or consistent growth. And you're kind of looking at growth from a perspective of, do you want to be a unicorn or do you want to be a camel? And
yeah.
that's kind of like basically like, the way we're going to grow is slow and steady across a long period of time, or are we going to just, shoot for the stars?
Hmm.
And those two things are, you kind of have to recognize where you want to be. And for me, I was like, all right, well, this is moving, but it's not moving at the pace that I want to move,
You
and
want to be a unicorn.
I want to work at a high growth, hyper growth startup where everything is going to be different from a day to day basis. So I started looking, found a company called Breather,
Hmm.
and Breather was because they were just recently acquired, so they are a flexible, on demand office space provider.
Huh.
So
Nice.
picture like a slightly more transactional WeWork, on a smaller scale. So like let's say a boardroom, or if you needed to have like an offsite, things like that. And they had multiple cities,
Oh
many
wow.
many thousands of spaces, all different sizes. So they were looking for a sales operations manager, somebody to come in and take over a lot of key projects and key things from their VP of sales. And so I ended up, interviewing, got the job, and then that was kind of my first intro to hyper growth startups, VC backed startups, which is a completely different world.
So if it's okay to ask, how much were you making when you left Fruit Guys? When you started and when you left?
When I first started, it was hourly. I don't remember how much I was making hourly, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But I think when I left, I was probably the offer that I accepted at the Breather was 55, flat salary, no bonus, and some stock options, but like didn't really make sense to me at the time because nobody explains that, especially as a minority kid. Um, so like I was just okay. I was like, hey, 55, like that's not bad. I was working at the Gap 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I mean, like, so I was just happy with that. But I
Yeah.
think we were hourly and then made. I think it was probably like 40 something, 42 or 45 or something like that. Maybe a
Nice.
little less at the Fruit Guys, but basically, they countered. They were doing hourly for some reason. I think maybe some sort of accounting thing that they were trying to do on the Fruit Guys side. But
Uh,
basically, the way that they calculated things was all from an hourly perspective. So they did end up countering. It was a whole process of like negotiation. Um,
oof.
but
You want to get
yeah,
into
not
that?
we
Negotiation.
can.
All right.
Um,
Negotiations. I can actually talk a little bit about that too. Yeah. So, all right. What would you say? What's your advice on negotiations? Should you win? How do you go about negotiating your salary? And if you don't mind, if you want to give a ballpark of where you at now, that's fine. If not, that's cool. Just
Hey, I mean, I'm happy to give whatever numbers. Transparency is important to me. So if
or
that's information that'll be important to people, then I'm happy to
so
divulge. But
so how much are you making now?
so my original offer letter was for 140. So 140,000 is the original base salary that I had, with no real bonus. It's kind of changed to where I have a bonus, but then COVID had an impact on that. So they
Mm,
knocked me down a percentage to be able to maintain runway.
mm,
Um, and then they eliminated a lot of positions along the way. So they eliminated about 8 to 10 positions last year in March of 2020. They reduced a lot of our salaries. The CEO took a big cut. A lot of our employees took a big cut, and I ended up getting a cut from 140 to 125, and then through last year's performance review, I got a bump up to 128.8 or something like that. It's
nice.
almost
Sheesh.
129. So
Yeah, yeah. Goodness gracious.
yep.
So in negotiating salaries, like what's your process as far as you get your initial offer. Walk me through your process of, do you accept? Do you counter? The research going in behind that. What does that look like?
Yeah. I think so. Even to go back further, I think something that I've learned recently in talking to recruiters and talking to people who are in the industry and talking to people who are experts is we get trapped as the employee to think that we need that job more than they need us. It's a mutual thing. It's 50-50.
Mm,
They need to fill that position just as much as you want a new position.
yeah.
Um, and so we get caught up and fall for these tricks and these things that they know full well what they're doing. And and so I think the biggest thing that I can say is, and something that I've learned recently on taking into my search going forward is, you have to try to avoid giving them what your range is.
Yeah.
You have to flip it on its head. So when you're going through this process and you're going through a first interview, or they say, hey, we want to have a first call with a recruiter, you want to know what that band is for every role that they have. For any company, no matter the size, they have a specific band, and some companies have specific bands for cities. So like you would have a different band for the same role in Birmingham than I would have in Austin or New York. It
Yeah.
would be different, like it'd all be different, right? So I think that factors in to the initial conversations, right? They're going to be like, okay, well, because it's no longer illegal to ask you what you're currently making. So
Print
HR.
Print Jaw has a question. He says, "Do you ever feel like do you ever feel as if not having a college degree impacted the way you negotiated with someone
Early on, absolutely.
early on?"
I was just happy. I was just happy to get whatever I
I
could.
feel
Like
that.
I wouldn't negotiate. Like this is all things. These are all things that I had to learn and learn the hard way, and then help other people learn. And then I was like, okay, it's confirmation, right? It's verification of my thinking and my research and my talking to people that, oh, this is the right way to go about it.
Yeah.
But absolutely early on, because if there was a band, let's say the band was 40 to 50, and I wanted 50, and they were like, okay, you get 41, I was taking 41. I was not like
Straight up.
I was not messing with the game at all. I thought, okay, so like absolutely, and I was just like, happy to take, you kind of go through life, right? You're just like happy to get whatever you can,
I,
and try to hold on to that.
I can attest to that. The position that I'm in currently, I got offered the bottom of that band, the lowest you could bring somebody in, and because I was so in a rush to get out of the position I was currently in, I just jumped at it. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Currently, I guess we're pivoting to what currently everybody I've accepted a job as an information security associate in the
Yeah.
infosec department at my job. So I've actually it's like a 17K increase, and I've talked to Aleeph. This this is my guy right here. We kind of spoke about it, and I countered my initial offer. I was nervous as hell, guys. Man, I didn't hear anything back for like a week after I sent my counter offer, and I was like, oh, they're going to rescind.
Yeah.
Thanks. Shout out to the HR at the company I'm at. They were very. Once I reached out for some insight, they were very. They actually reached out to me first and were like, "Hey, Alante, we're not ignoring you. We're just dealing with some red tape," and kind of walked me through it. And they were very, very insightful throughout this process, and I'm appreciative of that. But yeah, I was actually able to. I didn't get what I asked for, but I was able to get almost 5,000 over my initial offer. So I'm not mad at it. That's money on the table that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't ask for it. So I would say that the last job before this was the job I'm in now was my first salary job. And when I first got that, you go from hourly to salary, and you get that K. You get that, and you
Yeah.
hear that, and you're like, oh yes. What I did with this position is I went and did some market research, as Aleeph has alluded to, and I just looked at what does the position that I was applying for, what's the median for that, and that's what I asked for. The range was like a 20K range between X, and it was like what 47 to 74. I asked for
Hmm.
60, and we met somewhere near that. So I'm super happy. I've really got my foot in the door with security. This is the plan is to do this for a few years, bump up to a security engineer while getting I finished up my bachelor's in the spring in information systems. Then I'm gonna go ahead and go back and get the master's in cybersecurity, and from there with the certs and the degree and just everything, I should be very, very comfortable moving forward. So I can just attest to the negotiations. Just one thing I would say is you're like Aleeph said, they need to fill that position just as much as you need the job. It's a two-way street. If they've offered you a salary, that means they want you. So as long as you go
Yeah.
about asking for your worth in a professional sense, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to feel bad about. And it goes back to that imposter syndrome. It's like I'm asking for a dollar amount that I've never made. Am I even worth this? Yes, you're worth
or
it.
or no one in my family's ever made,
Yeah,
not even
come on
close.
now.
And then
Exactly.
it's like, and then that factors in, right? Because you don't know any better. No one's taught you that. These are uncharted territories, and like that's kind of where I have these conversations with you and other people, where I'm just like, yeah, like know your worth and ask for more.
Yep.
Like whatever's that median. Like yeah, you'll go on Glassdoor and be like, yeah, for that median, no, ask because somebody's making that, and is that
Yeah.
somebody better than you? Like is that somebody really that much better than you at their job? Probably not, but they made it and because they asked. All they did was ask.
Hey. Which Prince All said I agree. It's never good to give them a number first. Yeah, I'm learning that. I definitely learned from this situation. I think that it's definitely gonna help me in my future endeavors as far as negotiating salaries go. If anybody in the chat has any questions, I appreciate if y'all, if you want to ask them, feel free. It's an open floor, so don't feel like you guys just gotta watch me and him talk to each other all night. Y'all are welcome to tap in and chime in with anything. From Fruit Guys to Breather, what's next after that? What goes on after that?
So with Breather, it was an interesting place because it was literally like drinking from a fire hose. Like I was thrown to the wolves, and like at one point, my boss was like, "Okay, so we have to fire the sales development representative manager. She's not doing anything. I don't know what's happening. I can't go down there. I can go up to Montreal, but I need you to go up to Montreal and fix the SDR process and and whip them into shape." I this was
How old are you at this
four
point?
this 4 years ago. So I'm 25, 26. And he was like, "Yeah, go whip these like a lot of older dudes into shape." And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But I was there for like a month, and I helped
Wow.
them with the process. I was staying in the company Airbnb. I was like, just focused in on them, got to know them. Actually, one of my closer friends, he and I have maintained a relationship since then. But he was one of the SDRs, and he was
Nice.
the one who actually got promoted based on my recommendation of the process. But just really, really just cross-functional projects, really working with a bunch of different people in a bunch of different roles, like VPs and C-suite all the way down. Um, but they had a go-to-market issue. They didn't
Mm.
really know how to acquire and how to uh, break into their customer base, and things weren't as recurring as they should have been. So, as a startup, that's really bad.
Yeah.
And especially as a well-backed startup, Series B, Series C, going into Series D, right? It's a slippery slope. So, um, I ended up I was looking already. I stayed, and so basically, I negotiated between two companies. One company had offered me. Let's see. At that point, I was making 55. I didn't have a raise yet. Performance reviews were coming up. I negotiated with the other company to get an offer of 85.
Wow.
I came back to Breather and asked them for 90.
Ooh.
Um, and they said no, but what we can do is give you a sales operations manager title,
Wow.
or senior sales, whatever. They were going to give you the better title,
Yeah.
um, and we'll give you 75. So I left 10K on the table to stay because they promised me that I would be able to work with my VP of sales and marketing in a closer cadence,
Wow.
and so I ended up rejecting the offer.
From
I
Breather or from
stayed
the okay from
from
the
the other company,
Let me. I'm
and
sorry to interject. So
nope,
you took that offer because of the title. You saw the potential and the
yes.
title moving forward. You didn't jump. That's another important part of the negotiation process. I feel like is if you get offered a title, there are more things than money that have value. For example, I know, and I'll let him get into it. But Aleeph gets, he has stock options, title changes, and whatnot. In negotiations, all of that is on the table. Never be afraid to kind of ask for things like that. If you're not getting the dollar amount you want, you can ask for more PTO. You can ask for more time. You can. There are a lot of different ways people can flex and bend, but we don't because it's not anything that we're taught out the gate. It's not something that we do. And moving forward, Aleeph and I probably end up doing a series on imposter syndrome and negotiating salaries, and
Yeah.
just we'll kind of bunker down on those subjects closely. But I just want to kind of give you guys an introduction to him. This amazing person. I'm gonna let you continue. I'm excited to have you here. So continue. I appreciate the insight. Keep going, please.
No, yeah. So I ended up staying, and it didn't end up working out for me because the person that I was going to be working with, I guess he got pushed out or left the company. So like the one of the reasons why I stayed and accepted the position was to work with him, and he left.
Mm.
And so I was very much like, all right, well, what do I do now? I turned down this great position at this other company, which is now blown up, which pisses me off, but neither here nor there. Um, but I so another lesson, right? Another hard lesson that I had to learn was okay, you can't really, you know, things that can't be contingent upon another person. It has to really be
Mm.
about what you're doing. And another hard lesson to learn is when you really feel like it's time to leave, and when you really feel like it's a place that you don't want to work for anymore, you probably shouldn't stay there.
That's that
Like
80-20 rule, right?
even if like they came back and they're like, oh, we're going to give you 100K, and I fell for that, I would have still been unhappy.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, it was business as usual pretty much. We were trying to figure out like a lot of go-to-market restructuring. So once he left, um, and then I had just started the interview process again. I started looking at different roles and trying to figure it out. And um, then also really taking a step back and identifying, okay, well, where do I want to be? What do I want to do? What kind of roles? What series company do I want to be? A seed stage company? Do I want to be at a Series A or Series B or Series C? I had never worked at a big company before. Maybe working with a bunch of different sales operations people would be beneficial for me. So like, I was just trying to figure all of that out as I was like looking to leave Breather.
Mm-hmm. So,
Um,
my bad.
no, I think, and then just one other thing, as you said, imposter syndrome, I think is obviously factors into that huge. I think when you go into negotiations, like you said, everything is on the table. I've come to learn that a lot more is on the table than I've even realized. Like, people, especially VPs and above, tend to negotiate upfront severance.
Oh, wow.
So, so they'll pre-negotiate the severance package when they're accepting a position,
Wow.
and that allows them the flexibility to say, okay, if I'm a VP accepting a position at a Series A company, what's the likelihood that I get fired or the likelihood that this company fails?
Uh,
Probably pretty high, right? So
uh-huh.
what I do is I say, okay, you're still going to promise to. I'm going to say we're going to bake this into my offer letter that upon my severance or whatever, if I leave, if I quit, if you fire me, you're still going to pay me 6 months, you're still going to be paying me 12 months, whatever it
Oh,
is.
wow.
And so they do that, and because I've always wondered, I've always been like,
That is crazy.
either these VPs are just like really, really good with money, and I'm terrible with money, or like they're not worried about leaving this company at all. And
That
I
is,
found out that that's exactly why they do that.
wow.
All of them do that.
Huh.
But that's something that we can all do. Like if you feel like
Yeah.
okay, like
Wow.
there's no skin off your back and their back to be like, okay, well, because they want it to work out. Like they want a hire, especially if they get to an offer letter. They want it to work out. You want it to work out. You don't want to leave and bounce around every 6 months to a different role. Like
Exactly.
it's exhausting. So like they want it to work out. You want it to work out. It's in their best interest to be like, okay, well, if it doesn't work out on the off chance that it doesn't, here's 3 months, here's 6 months, here's 12 months, and always negotiate that too. If you ever get let
Man.
go from a company, I've been let go twice. If you ever get to a point where you're let go or position elimination or they offer you some sort of severance package, negotiate. If they
Yeah.
offer you 3, ask for 6. If they offer you 6, ask for 8.
Man.
Whatever it is.
We are definitely gonna have to come back and probably do like a segment on the go, because that's beyond. My head's kind of exploding right now about that one. That is nuts. I legit had no idea about that. I was always wondering
Yeah,
that too, though. Like, how do you get a severance package? What kind of job do you have to get that kind of stuff? It's just
right.
negotiating up front, though. It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous. Golly.
Because I was always curious. Like they were always very comfortable leaving good positions or getting fired or getting let
Huh.
go or whatever. And I was always just like baffled by that. Like you guys seem real comfortable. I know you make a lot of money, but I'm just like, maybe you're just really good at saving your money. Like just good. I don't know. But like, and then I found that out, and I was like, oh my god. All right, I get it.
Wow.
This makes a lot of sense.
Look, we're gonna end on that one right there, because we're gonna come back with some more goodies. That is, I'm blown by that one for real. Friend Charlie is too. He put the head exploding emoji. That is,
Yeah.
look, y'all see where I brought this man on now. So, to everybody that's been tuned in, y'all, I appreciate y'all. This is honestly the most viewership I've had concurrently since I've started streaming. Wow, thank y'all for real. Like this is really amazing. I'll definitely be having Aleeph back on. We're gonna dive deeper into a few topics that we touched on today. If you guys ever have any questions, insights you want to share, feel free to hit me up, hit Aleeph up. You can hit him up on LinkedIn, I'm sure.
Yep.
You can hit me up anywhere. You know, I'm at City Boy Summer. You can hit me up on You can, hit my personal account, do whatever needs to be done. But this the thing, this the goal with this is to shed light on things that we don't, that's just not common knowledge. Like, a lot
Sure.
of these things we don't know because we're not taught out the gate. So I'm gonna do my job to make sure every Tuesday, if not every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, I'm putting something back out into the atmosphere. Thanks for the insight and time, guys. Had a great time. Prince Job, bro. Hey, I appreciate you, man, for coming by. You made this is what I do it for the interaction, for the reaching out and other
Yeah.
people. I met Prince All like randomly playing Call of Duty one day, and like he just hopped in, and we kind of hit it off since then. So again, the community is what I do it for. I'm not doing this. Y'all don't owe me nothing. Y'all ain't got to donate nothing. This is free. This is for y'all, man. Thank you so much for giving me this platform to speak on. I'll be back. I think I'm actually in the middle of moving, so I think I'm gonna actually take a little 2 week hiatus to get everything under wraps and stuff. But when I come back, we're gonna have some fresh faces. We're gonna have some new things going on. Y'all be sure to tune in, man. I love everybody. I have a great Tuesday. Enjoy, Dorian. My God, Dorian. What is good, bro? Dang. This will also be going up on YouTube. So if you guys want to go back and check out the VOD, I'll throw it up on YouTube. You can check it out on Twitch. You can check it out on Facebook.